What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than normal. We don't have a true vlog for y'all today. The last couple of days have been crazy, to say the least, and we have not had a chance to film anything interesting, but that's a good thing because we've been meaning to make a video breaking down the sale of our Ford Fusion, and so that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today.
So in this video today, we're going to talk about us selling our Ford Fusion, and we're going to go a little bit over of how much that vehicle made, how much we bought it for, how much it cost us while we owned it, and then how much we sold that vehicle for. And we'll talk about how we're able to accomplish some of these numbers with this vehicle. So a little background about this Ford Fusion. This is one of our vehicles that we bought when we were first getting started out on Turo. We bought it in January of 2019, and at the time that was probably one of the little more expensive cars, because up until then I think we just bought a Yaris that was really the most expensive.
I think that was that was the period of time where we really didn't have money. We were really scratching by, and we were reinvesting everything that we could into the Turo business, and so that's the period of time where we bought the $2,300 Ford Focus,
yeah,
and the $2,700 Ford Focus, and the Yaris.
It was the most expensive cheap car that we bought.
Yeah, it was. No, and I remember it was considered pricey. It was a tough pill to swallow, which is crazy to think, because now it's that's a cheap car by every definition in September 2021.
Ugh. All right, so a little bit background of this Ford Fusion. It was super dark outside, but that's not where it started off. When we were looking at the car, it didn't have a title either. It was recently bought from a police auction, and the guy was just simply flipping it really fast.
But I remember the guy, he didn't speak very good English. Like HP said, it was in the middle of the night,
apartment complex,
10 o'clock at night, because at the time, HP was working his full-time job, so anytime we had to go look at cars, we had to go look at them at night, and so it was just all around sort of a sketchy situation that was really exasperated by the fact that this guy did not speak English.
Yeah. Now, looking at the car overall, the car was actually pretty decent looking, but right off the bat had a couple of bad problems. If you look back in one of our previous videos when we were taking a look at a red Ford Fusion, you'll hear us reference some of these. Number one being it had a airbag light on, which at the time it had a couple of recalls that had to do with the airbag, and we both made a lapse in judgment by saying this is probably one of the recalls. We were wrong.
It was not, and it was this huge issue with us replacing the door harness, and again, at the time HP didn't have a lot of time. I was the only one who was working for the company full time. HP was just working for the company in his spare time, and so we were having to diagnose and fix this airbag issue with me predominantly doing most of the work, which I am not a mechanic.
But she did pretty good. I mean, she was in the middle of the driveway, had the door off, and was giving me pictures while I was working, and I would come home on my lunch break with part numbers, and we're trying to figure this whole thing out. That took a lot of sorting.
And then kind of the last problem was the bonded title issue. Now, if you guys have seen some of our other videos, you may recognize us talking about a bonded title, because a Mazda 2 that we just purchased has a bonded title, but this was the first bonded title car that we had ever bought, and it was extremely daunting. So this car just had a slew of issues that ultimately made it pretty expensive, made it a pretty big pain.
Yeah, it was an expensive car that had too much expense to come with it.
But once we got these issues fixed, it was a good performer.
Yeah, it was a very solid performer. All right, but let's break down the numbers. How'd it do?
So I got my notebook right here with the written down numbers. So in 2019, our very first year with this car on Turo, it was also our best performing year ever. This was before Turo started changing policies, kind of before Turo was more mainstream. And at this time, the cars on an individual basis were making a lot of money. And in 2019, this car made $7,497.22.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days, honestly. And 2020, this car made $5,158. Now, 2020 was, of course, a weird year because in the month of April, all of our cars were sitting for the entire month, and then there was the COVID kind of hitting a brick wall where cars weren't being rented.
Yeah.
And so that, of course, had a negative impact. And then in 2021, the car made $3,539.
Yeah, but we did take it off the platform in July for good in preparation to sell it. Now, on a total time of the Ford Fusion being on Turo, it made $16,194.22. Made a good amount of money.
And that was roughly with it being on the Turo platform for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So in this exact same period of time, the car cost us $3,760 to operate. This included things like repairs, it included things like insurance, anything that needed to be done to the car, this included it. And so the car was fairly cheap, I would say, even though it did have a lot of issues. I mean, $3,760 over the course of 2.5 years, considering how much work we did to the car, is, I think, pretty solid.
It was like 6 or 7 oil changes. I mean, the car racked up a lot of miles. So.
Yeah, it did. It was a high mileage car.
Yeah. All right, so we bought it for $4,200. We put about like 50,000 miles and a lot of parts on it, and we ended up selling that car for $4,750. So pats on the back. That's actually a pretty good job as far as buying a car and selling a car with 50,000 miles more. Not bad.
Yeah, the sale of the car is a big win. I mean, the fact that we were able to sell it for $4,750 for more than we bought it for, even considering the fact it had way more miles, it had way more wear, way more tear, a big, big win in that regard.
For sure.
So in total, this car made $21,244.22 in the 2.5 years that we owned it. That includes the earnings that it made on Turo. It includes any damage claims that we were able to profit from. It includes overages and things like that. And it also includes the sale of the vehicle as well. So the $4,750 that we made from selling the car. And in that exact same amount of time, the car cost us $7,960 to operate. That includes all of the costs for like oil changes, repairs, that type of stuff, as well as the purchase price of the vehicle, which was $4,200.
Now, once we take all those numbers together, that brings us a total earnings of $13,284.22 with that Ford Fusion.
Now, all in all, this is a number that I know I'm very happy with. I was super happy whenever we were able to sell it for this price, especially because if you would have asked me a year ago what we could have sold the Fusion for, I would have said like $3,000.
Yeah, it was going through a lot, and it seemed like every time we got something fixed, there was another leak. Because partly due to the fact that that car had been in an accident previously, and it was fairly significant accident. The car was from a rust state, and rust states can really do a lot on worn suspension components and rubber bushings and all, which was a lot of the problems on the car too.
Now, remember, this is again something that we talk about a lot on this channel. I talk about it a lot on my channel, is the importance of buying cars below market value. So buying them below what they are being sold for to the general public, whether that be on Facebook Marketplace, on Craigslist, on Auto Trader, whatever the case is.
Now, you don't have to have a dealer's license or you don't have to be a car expert to buy these cars below market value. It's all about doing your research, taking the time, and looking out for those good deals. They're not just going to be out there all the time. They get bought up quick. That's why they're good deals. You're looking for them. You got to find them when they pop up.
But in my opinion, and I think HP would agree, though I don't want to put words in his mouth, Turo is made, or it is broken, with the purchase price of the car. If you buy a car at the wrong price, you are setting yourself up to get royally screwed by Turo's claim department. And if you buy a car at the right price, then you are setting yourself up to make profit, not only with the earnings of the vehicle itself, but also whenever you sell the car, or if it gets totaled, or if it gets damaged. You truly, truly can make or break your business with whatever price you buy your cars at. So do not overpay for cars. It is so incredibly important.
For sure. Guys, as always, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.